Oh, is it great to be with you in advance of one of the biggest pay-per-view events of 2021. Jon Anik here, lead play-by-play voice for the UFC. And along with DraftKings, we are thrilled to bring you what is the first edition of AnikDotes as we get you primed for UFC 264, Poirier versus McGregor 3. We got a few other items of note going on in the sports betting world right now as well to get into today. But AnikDotes, what is it? Essentially a monthly segment in advance of all the big UFC pay-per-views. As some of you know, I've essentially been betting on sports like every day since 1996. I love talking about sports from this particular lens and angle. So to that end, AnikDotes is going to be a lot of that in your life if you so desire. But before we get going, in terms of my designation as a sports bettor, I very much prefer the word avid to degenerate. So before the program today, I looked up the word degenerate. Here's the definition: having lost the physical, mental, or moral qualities considered normal and desirable, showing evidence of decline. Like, that doesn't necessarily describe me as a sports bettor. I'm down in 2021, but decline's a strong word. Avid, having or showing a keen interest in or enthusiasm for something. So I'm an avid sports bettor. I'm not a degenerate per se. But let's get this thing going. It's AnikDotes. It's great to be with you. And what better event on which to start this great segment than UFC 264, Poirier versus McGregor 3, T-Mobile Arena, Las Vegas, Nevada, Saturday, July 10th. I don't have tickets, folks. I'm sorry. My tickets are gone. I get two. They're not on the floor and they're gone. But this is the perfect storm. It's the first UFC live event with a crowd in Vegas since UFC 248, which was March of 2020. So that makes it a hot ticket in and of itself. And then, of course, Conor McGregor is one of the men on the marquee. So one of the most sought after tickets in UFC history, and mine are gone. But we have a lot of different angles to get into when it comes to this main event. Let us get to main event mathematics. So I don't like math. That is why I married a math teacher, but I do love odds. And before we dive into the odds for this third and presumably final meeting between Conor and Dustin, first I want to look back at the odds history in the series. So first meeting, UFC 178, September of 2014, Dateline, Las Vegas, Nevada. McGregor opens a minus 170 favorite and closes closer to minus 250. Second meeting, not all that long ago, January of this year, Dateline Abu Dhabi. McGregor opens around minus 175 as the betting favorite, closes around minus 290. So presumably a lot of action on Conor McGregor for that second fight and a lot of tickets getting ripped up. Now we come up on this third meeting. So Poirier opened as the betting underdog in most spots, despite the recent win, plus 120 or so. Right now on DraftKings, Dustin is favored, minus 115. This has bounced around a little bit. McGregor is also in the minus at minus 106 or so. Seems like maybe 60% or more of the action thus far has been on Poirier. I expect these sports books, DraftKings Sportsbook, to get two-way action sort of right up until fight time, especially with a fight like this that is close to a pick 'em. But a few angles I want to get into when it comes to this trilogy fight, this third meeting. Dustin Poirier told ESPN this week that he wanted this fight to take place at a higher weight. I'm not sure if that meant 170 pounds, the welterweight division, or 165, but that the UFC wanted this fight at 155 pounds, and that makes sense. It's a definite lightweight title eliminator. The winner presumably is going to fight the now undisputed champion Charles do Bronx Oliveira for the title. So I like that this fight is at 155 pounds. I do find it interesting that Poirier publicly made it known that he did desire this fight to happen up a weight class. I don't think he's going to have a tough cut because of it per se. I just think that it is noteworthy. And for the record, I love in terms of a meritocracy that this fight is at 155 pounds. Also, much has been made of what adjustments Conor McGregor is going to make in this trilogy matchup against Dustin Poirier. Dustin has been asked about this a lot, and certainly Dustin would counter that he's going to make his own adjustments, and you don't know exactly how he is going to proceed. But I would encourage people to go back and watch the first round of that second meeting between Dustin and Conor, because Conor got a whole lot of things done in that fight. He was taken down about a minute in, but was able to get up, and he did land some shots. And I don't have to tell most of our viewers that you don't want to be on the wrong end of too many accurate connections from Conor McGregor. So I think the first 5 minutes goes without saying, but absolutely critical for Dustin Poirier. And I think he has acknowledged Conor as special, and I think that you're going to see Dustin Poirier not be on his bicycle early on. He's going to fight his fight, but I think he's going to be mitigating risk, as they say, early on. I also find it hard to believe that that these guys are going to go the full 25 minutes here. DraftKings has all the round props out there for over 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5 rounds. Over 1.5 rounds right now, minus 160. The under 1.5 rounds prop will pay you at plus 120. I think eventually one of these men is going to be able to get the other guy out of there. I really do. McGregor by knockout, TKO, or DQ is plus 140. Poirier by knockout, TKO, or DQ plus 175. Dustin by submission plus 700. Perhaps that is juicy to some. Poirier by decision plus 550. And Conor McGregor by decision is plus 700. Also, a great promo on DraftKings Sportsbook for new customers right now. They're giving you 264 to 1 odds on a first round knockout either way. So you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use promo code ANIK when you sign up, ANIK. You place a $1 bet, $1 on either Conor McGregor or Dustin Poirier to win by first round knockout, and you will win $264 if you land on the right side. So 264 to 1 odds if either guy wins by first round knockout or TKO, and you get it right. All right, time now for Q&Anik. We have solicited questions from our DraftKings users and viewers and listeners. I have not seen these questions beforehand. I have not heard them, and hopefully I can efficiently answer them. My producer, Cody Merrow, is locked and loaded. Cody, what do we have?
What is one Anik betting don't? What bets or patterns do you avoid?
A betting don't. So, I mean, I got to be a little bit more disciplined as a sports bettor, but one thing that is a don't for me, I don't bet a lot of parlays. I'm a straight wager guy. And I think when I have realized long term success, it has been when I have been disciplined. Now, I'm that slapdick with like 7 straight wagers last night, so I got to cut down on the volume. But generally speaking, for me, if I could give you one recommendation that at least has worked out on this side, I'm a straight wager guy as opposed to a parlay guy. And I also never bet on the teams that I root for. You'll never see me, almost never. I mean, certainly I'll find a spot with the Red Sox over the course of 162 games to bet on that team, especially in current form. But my heart is already invested with the Red Sox, the Celtics, the Bruins, and the Patriots. I know that's going to fall on a lot of deaf ears, but my heart's already invested. So I don't need my wallet invested as well. I know there are a lot of sharps who would say, hey, man, if you're eliminating your teams, that's not long term advisable. But for me, my heart's already invested. So you won't see me betting on the Boston team. All right, Cody, who's next?
What is the most underrated sporting event to bet on?
Most underrated sporting event to bet on. Well, I don't discriminate. I love betting on the Olympics. So I would probably say the Olympic Games, and I'll be betting on all sorts of different propositions leading up to the Tokyo Games here in a few weeks. But I also feel like baseball is a little bit underrated because of the daily nature of it. I love to be able to get in on a baseball system, or maybe if the Yankees have lost 3 in a row, I know this could be ill advised to some, but if the Yanks have lost 3 or 4 in a row, I'm going to start betting the Yankees every day until they win a goddamn baseball game. So I like systems. I like baseball as an underrated sport to bet.
Should you ever pay for gambling advice?
Yeah, I think it's okay, just depending on your bankroll and how fat it is. I have paid handicappers in the past, and again, I think for somebody like me who is just turning and burning with the UFC every week, despite the fact that I'm betting on sports every day. Like last night, I go into the sports book and I'm undisciplined. Right. I don't have time necessarily to do the research. And even though I might have hit on the Milwaukee Bucks in the game, I missed on a Chris Middleton prop. I missed on a Bogdanovich prop. So letting the research in when you can't do it yourself, depending on how prohibitive the price is for that research, I think it's advisable. So I think it's okay selectively to pay the true handicappers and professional sports bettors for a free pick or two. I guess it wouldn't be free, but yeah, I think that's okay.
Now, when you think about the one that got away, what bet comes to mind?
Well, recency bias with this answer, but how about the Sixers in game 5 of their Eastern Conference semifinal against the Atlanta Hawks? I had a big money line bet on Philly. I just like them in that spot. And I'm not going to curse here, but they blew a 26-point lead. So that would probably classify as a bad beat, certainly one that got away. I guess the biggest loss of my semi-pro betting career. Can I call myself a semi-pro? I think biggest loss of my life was Hillary Clinton in the 2016 election against Donald Trump. So I don't know. I felt that Hillary was a pretty good bet. I don't know if that's the one that got away per se, but I would say Hillary Clinton as well.
At UFC 264, what fight is most likely to go the distance? Poirier versus McGregor, or Sean O'Malley against UFC newcomer Chris Matinho.
Interesting. So, which of these two fights is more likely to go the distance? So I feel like Chris Motino has the potential to be overmatched here. He's had a lot of success on the regional circuit in New England, but I find it hard to believe that he's going to be able to last 15 minutes with Sean O'Malley. But again, I'm sitting here talking to you before I've really talked to Motino. I haven't ingested the film on him. And for Dustin and Connor to go the full 25 minutes, I'm not sure I see it. So I'm going to actually say that Sean O'Malley and Chris Motino are more likely to go the distance than the main event.
Which underdog is most likely to cash at UFC 264? Carlos Condit at plus 150 versus Max Griffin, Nico Price at plus 140 versus Michel Pereira, Greg Hardy plus 115 versus Tai Tuivasa.
That's a good question. I wish I knew who this was from. The chalk answer is Greg Hardy plus 115 against Tai Tuivasa, right? Because it's not a pick'em fight, but it is the closest on the number. Max Griffin's current form would probably give me a little bit of pause on that Condit number at plus 150 unless it gets juicier. I think Nico Price and Michel Pereira should be a pick'em. So I think there's probably value on Nico Price, but of all those underdogs most likely to cash, I got to say the Prince of War, Greg Hardy. All right, that's it for Q&Anik. Again, we will take your questions. Hashtag AnikDotes if you want to fire those in on Twitter or Instagram, and more for you in advance of UFC 265 next month. All right, now it's time for Rip Up Your Tickets as I present to you the dumbest bet I made this past week. So on the Major League Baseball front, I'm still kicking myself for a big bet I made on the San Francisco Giants on Thursday night, July 1st. So I've been fading this Arizona Diamondbacks outfit with great success, but that was just not a game that I researched and not a game that I should have gotten greedy with. But the worst bet I placed this week, absolutely sucker bet straight as hell in the NBA, Game 6, Clippers and Suns. And I didn't tune out the noise. I'm listening to all these sharps and all these NBA insider types, and I knew the Clippers were the square side. And in a show of discipline, Cody and listeners, I actually laid off all day. But when the Clippers went from +1 to +2, I fired on the Clips and they lost 130 to 103. And now my kids can't go to overnight camp next year. All right, Anik's action. Where is my action this week? It's going to be on the Milwaukee Bucks, I think, in some form. I think you're getting value on the Bucks right now with Giannis out of the equation, and certainly there was value on the Bucks in Game 5 at home on Thursday, July 1, -2 against the Atlanta Hawks. I just like their depth. And I don't know. I just like their home court advantage a little bit as well. So even if they are in an NBA final situation with Phoenix, I think they may be laying 2 at home, and that would constitute value to me. So Phoenix has a very, very strong home court advantage. I can speak to it because I actually went to one of the games against the Nuggets earlier when the UFC was in Phoenix during this postseason. But I'm pretty bullish on Milwaukee, and I might look to play them actually if they get to the finals in the +250 range against the Phoenix Suns. I would also say I still believe in the Tampa Bay Rays. I know as of this taping, they have lost 10 of their last 14. But unlike the Red Sox and the Yankees, the Rays don't get anything that amounts to appreciable respect from the odds makers or sports bettors. So more often than not, you're paying a price when you're betting on the Red Sox and the Yankees just because of the big market name. You're not paying that price with the Tampa Bay Rays. So because they have been down a little bit, don't let that give you pause. I'm still bullish on the Tampa Bay Rays, and I think they might even outlast my Boston Red Sox in the American League East. I also have a big future on the Montreal Canadiens to win the Stanley Cup. I have been hedging that with straight bets on the Tampa Bay Lightning every step of the way, and I will continue to do that in all likelihood as long as the series continues. Also, I would just say in closing, when I look at this UFC 264 fight card top to bottom, I think it sets up pretty well for some finishes. I think the matchmakers, Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard, and UFC President Dana White have done a really good job. So I hope that doesn't come back to bite us in the rear end on the broadcast, but I think the judges might have a relatively easy night at UFC 264. So pick your spots accordingly. And if you did enjoy today's segment of AnikDotes, let us know on Twitter. Questions and comments are welcome. The hashtag is AnikDotes, and we will incorporate those tweets as much as we can into our next installment. You can also follow DraftKings at DraftKings on social media channels. And for the DraftKings Sportsbook, it is at DK Sportsbook on Twitter, and on Instagram, it is DraftKings_Sportsbook. And of course, plenty more UFC 264 coverage from DraftKings throughout fight week. And I will be in Las Vegas with boots on the ground, and I can't wait to be with you all. New episode of AnikDotes in advance of UFC 265 coming up next month. With that, for everybody at DraftKings, I'm Jon Anik. Thank you for watching. Yo, later.